Have a very exciting program for you today. I'm going to be talking about LGBTQ representation in the invertebrate world. For any of my parents out there, just a quick content note, we are going to be discussing animal reproduction and animal reproductive behavior. We're going to keep everything very scientific, keep it PG rated, but just wanted to let you know so that you can make sure your young learners are ready for this information if needed. So, before we get started, I do just have a quick note. We are going to be doing a fair bit of anthropomorphizing animals today. So, that is ascribing human intentions to animal behavior. So, anthropomorphizing is perfectly fine. It's really great to help establish empathy with animals. But we're going to be going maybe a little bit further with it. However, the invertebrate world and the natural world in general is incredibly diverse. And we really want to celebrate that this month and all of the time. So, I've only got 15 minutes today, so let's go ahead and get started. So, up first, we have our animals who engage in same sex sexual behavior. So, these are just a small sampling. We've got some butterflies on here. This is a cowpea seed beetle, tiny little beetles, a red flower beetle, field cricket, dragonflies, termites, and even horseshoe crabs. And same-sex sexual behavior has been observed in many animals across the natural world, including invertebrates. And for a long time, it was thought that maybe this was just a case of mistaken identity or indiscriminate mating for invertebrates in particular when their lifespans are very, very short. Maybe they're just hedging their bets. They're not stopping to check if who they're mating with is the opposite sex. They're just going for it. But in about the past 5, even 10 years, we're starting to see more researchers actually look at this and be like, what is the function of this behavior? Because from an evolutionary standpoint, engaging in mating behavior that actually won't result in offspring is considered a waste of energy, more or less. Especially for very small animals that have a short lifespan, engaging in behavior that may expend a lot of energy but not result in offspring evolutionary doesn't make sense. But they still do it. And so we're starting to kind of look into this a little bit more. Scientists are starting to research it. And there are a couple different theories as to why they engage in this behavior. It could be maintaining social bonds. It could be maintaining social hierarchy. And especially when we see females engaging in this behavior, it's usually males who are engaging in this behavior, but females have been observed as well. So it could be kind of maintaining hierarchy. It could be teaching, right? So teaching the younger ones what they need to do when it does come time for them to reproduce, or potentially even something that we haven't even realized, including just because they want to. I don't have it up here on the screen because I just learned about this last night, but actually some of our female tarantulas here at Butterfly Pavilion have been observed engaging in this behavior. So much so that we were actually all very confused for a while. We thought one of them maybe actually was a male because they were engaging in courtship behavior. And our zookeepers double checked. Nope, they're all girls. They're just engaging in this behavior for whatever reason they choose to. So again, more research needs to be done, but the natural world is full of diversity and full of mysteries. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more researchers look into this and maybe have some more answers for us. And also it helps us just connect more with these animals and learn to understand them better. All right, then we move on to our ace representation, our asexual reproducers. So lots of invertebrates can reproduce asexually, which means they can reproduce by themselves. They do not need another member of their species to help them. So in the cases, a lot of ocean invertebrates will reproduce asexually. So sea anemones, corals, both of them will bud or split. And so they're basically releasing tiny little clones of themselves and releasing them out into the water. This photo right here, this is an Asterina sea star. We do have a few in our collection. They're tiny little sea stars. They're about the size of your thumbnail, and they reproduce by literally splitting in half. And so this picture is from our collection. You can see this one has recently split, and then both halves will regrow those limbs that they're missing. It also means that they can kind of take over your aquariums. So if you do have a saltwater aquarium at home and you have these, just be mindful because they can reproduce very, very rapidly. There are some invertebrates as well who can reproduce via parthenogenesis, which means that they will lay unfertilized eggs. The females will lay unfertilized eggs and they still produce offspring. So aphids will do this, but Maclay's specter insects, stick insects, are my favorites because they can reproduce sexually in the traditional manner, have the male fertilize the eggs. But the females, if there are no males in the population or no suitable males, no males she wants to mate with, she can lay unfertilized eggs and they take a little bit longer to hatch, but the babies that hatch from there will always be female and they will essentially be clones of her. So it's not just invertebrates who engage in this, reptiles do as well. Reptiles, including Komodo dragons. So again, that's called parthenogenesis. Nice, interesting biological quirk. And it really is helpful for animals of if there something has happened to all the males in the population for some reason, or that female gets separated from the others for some reason, she can't find a mate, she's still able to reproduce. All right. Oops, I skipped a slide, I think. I did. So up next, we have our intersex representation, or genderqueer, non-binary, gender fluid, and these are going to be our snails and our slugs. So most snail and slug species are intersex, meaning that they possess both male and female reproductive organs, and they can both mother and father offspring. So I've got pictured here, I have some nudibranchs, which are these darling little sea slugs. They are very, very fancy, and I like this one. She matches the non-binary flag, her colors, and they are just wonderful. Some of the most beautiful animals you've ever seen, and they're just little slugs. We also have sea hares, which we do not currently have in our collection, but we have had them before, and these are giant marine slugs. They are, as their name suggests, the hare, they are about the size of a small rabbit, so they do get very large. And of course, garden snails as well. So that is why if you do have a garden this spring and summer, snails, and they move in, they can reproduce very rapidly because both, all of them can lay eggs and produce offspring. If we back it up to our trans representation here, so I do have a sneaky vertebrate I had in here, but I think clownfish are invertebrate allies. They have very special relationships with sea anemones, so I'm going to include them, as well as our Oregon pillbugs, which are an intertidal species of isopod, or a roly-poly, and flame scallops. So lots of animals, again, it's not just in invertebrates, fish do it a lot, as well as frogs, can change sexes, either because of environmental pressures. So in the case of clownfish, they live in small family groups. They'll have a dominant female and then some males under her. If something happens to that female, the then most dominant male will undergo that transition. His body will change, he will get larger as well, and he will then become the dominant female. Flame scallops, they will always start out as male. So when they first hatch from their eggs, they're all going to be male, and then as they age and they grow, they then transition to become female. Oregon pillbugs, it's the opposite, and that is pretty rare. It usually, if you do see this in nature, it's moving from male to female. For our Oregon pillbugs, though, they are moving from female to male. And so there are a lot of advantages to being able to do this. So in the case of clownfish, right, in the absence of females, we can just become female, right? Some of our males, they kind of get a little promotion. They turn into the females, and then we have a breeding population. It is also, just from like an energy standpoint, especially with invertebrates, being female is typically more energy required. They almost always have larger bodies, and the producing eggs is a lot more strain on their bodies. And so if they start out as male in their early lives, when they are very small, potentially having more competition for food, they do not need as much energy intake. And then as they get larger, as they get older, they then transition into being female. Um, so again, my title of my presentation today, it's basic biology, is a little tongue-in-cheek because there is nothing basic about biology, and that's why I love biology so much. All right, and then my final one. This is a little interesting quirk of biology that we see in arthropods and in birds, and this is called gynandromorphy, or gynandromorphs. And this is when an animal is literally right down the middle, bilaterally. One half will be female, one half will be male. Now, again, this is a genetic mutation, and typically these individuals cannot reproduce, but they can live perfectly fine lives. And so we've seen it in butterflies, in stick bugs, in beetles, in lobsters, in cockroaches. We had a cockroach a few years ago here at Butterfly Pavilion who was a gynandromorph. And it also can show up in birds. So here's a photo of a cardinal. And again, because they have that distinct coloration, you can see that we're literally one half male, one half female. And this potentially could happen a lot more than we realize because we only notice it in species with high sexual dimorphism, meaning that there are color differences, size differences, physical differences. In the case of stag beetles, right, the males will always have these long horns, whereas the females are much more reasonable. In this jungle nymph right here, the female is the large and green, whereas the males are smaller and brown. And then this great Mormon butterfly right here. Now, these are interesting butterflies as well because most people, if you ask, okay, which one's the male half, which is the female half, like a lot of birds, and with butterflies too, the females are rather plain, the males are very colorful. But with great Mormons, it's the opposite. This is the female half, the one with the yellow and the red spots. And the males, they're still very beautiful. They're very kind of a glossy blue-black, still very pretty, but much plainer than the females. So that's always just one of my favorite facts about them, because you would expect the bright, colorful ones to be the males. And that is just a very, very small sampling of our queer representation in the invertebrate world. If you are interested in learning more about this, I highly recommend you research it. Again, a lot more research is starting to come out and actually examining this and looking at it, and seeing what's going on here. So thank you all so much. Again, I hope you have a wonderful Pride Month. And we will be back next month in July, and we're going to be talking all about jumping spiders. So if you've been on our website recently, you might have noticed we have a brand new website. It is beautiful. It's so much easier to navigate, but my invertebrate investigations page got lost in the transition. So I will have that up and running again soon. But in the meantime, you can see all of our live streams. I've got them scheduled out through the rest of the year on YouTube. And so you can keep an eye on it there. And then I will hopefully have my webpage up and running soon. So once again, thank you all so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.